Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, my friends. Yes, this is a on-camera video this time around. So a while ago, I threatened to make a video of a potential new Capcom versus SNK game wish list for a roster. It's been, well, hinted at's too weak of a word because they're kind of hitting us over the face of it. We've made a video talking about it, but a new Capcom versus SNK or SNK versus Capcom game, whatever it may go, it seems inevitable. Watch this video if you have not seen that already, talking about that, how the Ken collaboration of Fatal Fury hits us over the head with a hammer, saying, hey, let's do more Capcom versus SNK. And there's even been, some interviews with Oda-san, the SNK director, after the fact, more than hinting at that as well. How SNK would love to do more collaborations or a new versus game in the future. So that said here, let's make a roster for a potential new Capcom versus SNK game. A few caveats though, some ground rules if you will. One, I believe this game, if it were to happen, and it seems like it's gonna happen, I believe this game will be an SNK made game. SNK, well, to be real about it, has a bigger budget than Capcom these days. And they are more in tune, with making smaller scale releases. Because I don't believe this would be a game like the size of Street Fighter 6 or anything like that. Or even the budget, right? But they have more mobility. Capcom's more of a hit-driven business. We need more Monster Hunter, we need more Resident Evil. I don't think they would be the ones to make this game, specifically. I just believe all things equal, they're probably more suited and more able to make the game of the two companies. So that's just an assumption, but we'll work with that. Also, even though this is effectively fantasy booking, I don't believe the roster would be 30 or more characters. It doesn't matter how much money's involved. This is the modern day. We do not have massive rosters like that anymore for all new characters without importing old animations, old models, all that. Assuming we're starting fresh, the most I'll give myself is 28, which is probably more than this game would even have, to be honest with you. But that's what we'll go with, is 28. And I want to make a roster I think is reasonable and fun, so it's not just me picking my favorites. Spoiler, Honda won't be on the list. I want to. I think Honda versus Hanako is the way to go. But I'm not just here to put all my favorites in and screw everything else, right? So I want a reasonable and fun and somewhat realistic idea of how this could move forward as an actual roster. So we'll be aiming for 28 characters. And I'll have it broken into tiers, I guess, of the characters that are must includes, because they're not going to ship the game without these characters. Some characters that are fun, and we want to build up the versus aspect, a rivalry aspect. So characters that are thematically similar in terms of either appearance, gameplay, or just how they are perceived. I think that's a big part of it. Some oddball choices, because you need some oddball choices for a versus game. Capcom versus SNK 2, we got quite a few. It's the reason you know who Hibiki is. 95% of people who know who Hibiki is because of CVS2. It's not because of The Last Blade. And hey, I like The Last Blade 2 as much as anyone, but realistically, CVS2 is what put her on the map. And then we also get odd choices like a box art superstar Kyosuke, because he's technically the face of CVS2. I bought the game on PS2 and he's on the box, right? So make of that what you will. So there'll be some odd choices, because there's gotta be some odd choices. And of course, some boss characters. Some I think would be a bit more obvious. Some I think we can have a bit of fun with it. So I guess that said, let's start with who are the auto includes? Who are the characters that kind of have to be in the game? And this is probably the easiest part of making this list, because when it comes to auto includes, you have some characters that you got to put in the game. You have to put in the game. The game doesn't work if you don't put them in, because at bare minimum, they got to be the characters on the box to help sell the game, right? But you don't want too many auto includes. You don't want to play it too safe, right? Because then all of a sudden the whole roster gets eaten up by the safest possible picks. And part of the fun of a versus game is when you go for the not safe picks. But we'll start with 4 out of the gate here. 4 out of the gate: Ryu, Chun-Li, Terry, Mai. Done. These are the safest possible picks, absolutely. And for good reason, because it kind of has to be that way. If we're doing this collaboration here, it's going to be mostly with the fighting game franchises. And obviously, on the Capcom side, it's going to be Street Fighter as the main event. And on the SNK side, it's going to be Fatal Fury / King of Fighters as the main event. And Ryu and Chun-Li are Street Fighter. And Terry and Mai these days are Fatal Fury / King of Fighters. And I know you're thinking, well, what about Kyo? What about Kyo? My boy Kyo. Kyo's old news, bud. Like, I hate to be the one to break it to you. Kyo ain't the main character no more on the SNK side. And he hasn't been in a long, long time. Maybe SVC Chaos. He was the main character then. But even that got retconned. Like when we did the re-release of SVC Chaos, whose face is on the big mashup poster? You better believe it's Ryu versus Terry. Terry is the SNK mascot now. You cannot like it. I know there's a few Kyo diehards out there who do not like it. That is the hard reality of it. Terry Bogard moves units. Kyo does not. And Kyo hasn't been the main character in a very long time. And it doesn't make sense to put him at the forefront of things. Like, hell, I would put K-Dash in before I'd put Kyo into the game. So, like, that's just to get all the way real about it. Like, because I know no one's going to argue Ryu and Chun-Li. Like, we don't need to have that fight. You say Ryu, Chun-Li, sure. Oh, yeah, no problem. I say Terry Mai, and then someone's like, well, what about Kyo? What about Kyo? What about Kyo? That's kind of where I'm really at. Who cares? That's harsh. That's harsh. And we're about to get harsher because my next auto-include is Iori. So yes, I want Iori in the game. I don't want Kyo. Because Iori is more popular than Kyo. People know Iori. If you were selling the game to the Capcom fans specifically, they'll be like, oh, I know that guy. He's got the purple flames and he has Rekkas sometimes, right? Like, and like, that's enough. Yeah, Iori has a more iconic look. He has a more iconic moveset. He has more iconic gameplay. He is more iconic than Kyo is. Flat out. So he makes it in. So now, if we have auto includes, we're on 3 SNK, 2 Street Fighter, 2 Capcom. Who's our third Capcom character? Well, this one, I'd say we dig in. Well, we're not digging in the well. We just put Morgan in. Just put Morgan in. Morgan, like, I don't have to even justify it. Morgan is Morgan. Morgan only gets her time to shine in like crossover events anyways. This would be a crossover event. Put Morgan in the game. The game will be better off for it because you got to have a Darkstalkers rep. You might as well have the Darkstalkers rep. Morgan hasn't had her own game since 1997, and yet somehow she persists to this day just because she's sexy bat lady. And apparently that is and has always been enough. So you maybe change your moveset a little bit so she's not just like, you know, the Akuma function, if you will, because, you know, fireball, air fireball, uppercut, like all that. Change her up a little bit so she can give the Shotos more time to breathe, make the Shotos a bit more valuable. But like for 6 characters for auto includes, Ryu, Chun, Morgan for Capcom, Terry, Mai, Iori for SNK. And those are like the auto includes. And we can make the rest of the roster a bit more fun and diverse. That makes sense in a way that will make fans happy and also have, you know, mildly popular but rarely appearing characters, because once again, that's the appeal of a versus game. But that said, that's the auto includes. And then I guess let's talk about characters that are thematic pairs. Now, when it comes to the next bulk section of the roster, I'm looking for ideas for characters that can be like thematic pairs. You know, you got to put the verses in the versus game, right? Because a lot of times you need like, oh, here's the Capcom guy, here's the SNK guy, and you want like some friction. You want them to look across the other side of the aisle and like, you know, give them the stink eye a little bit. So one of the suggestions I had in the video where we talked about this stuff originally is, you know, get some of the Street Fighter new blood, have Manon versus Shermie from King of Fighters. So we have an explicit King of Fighters rep, right, in Shermie, so she's not in Fatal Fury or any of the other franchises. And it's thematic. They're both French fashion grapplers. Now, technically, Manon is a fashion model. Shermie's a fashion designer. But then that, because like, oh, she can design Manon clothes. Like it works out, right? So we can do the grappler thing. Here's 2 grappler reps. You need the grappler reps anyways. And between you and me, I think SNK could make Manon a lot more fun than Capcom can. Because what we've had so far since Street Fighter 6 came out is not it. So, Give Menno a second chance at life on the SNK side of things if they're designing the game. And like, it'd just be fun. Like, you can retool Menno on like whatever the rule set's going to be. Who knows? That's beyond the purview of the video because we're just doing fantasy booking for a roster, right? I'm sure there'll be grooves or something akin to it, but like the metal system probably returning her just being a character that might actually work in the game she's in. That'd be an interesting way to do it versus how it is now. But yeah, so French Lady Grappler versus other French Lady Grappler. You know, Shermie, pretty popular, right? You need popular characters, let's put it that way, to sell the game. And like, that's just one little, you know, face off two similar style characters that can work out. Now, take two other characters that don't get as much airtime. Let's put it that way, right? So let's take another SNK, another KF character. Let's take Vanessa. So Vanessa is Mommy Boxer, right? And let's put her up against friggin' Dudley. Dudley does not get a lot of airtime in Street Fighter. Let's put it that way, right? And it's certainly not for lack of trying or for lack of complaining or lack of people wanting to see Dudley. People love Dudley. But Dudley, ever since Ed showed up, Ed sort of took the boxing spot, if you will. And that's it. Like, I don't ever expect to see Dudley in Street Fighter 6. So that said, let's put him here. And once again here, Dudley versus Vanessa, a bit of a style pair off. They'll play completely differently, but they're thematically similar, and they're both more like of a stylish, fast, high execution, high skill cap boxer. They're not brute force like a Balrog or an Axel Hawk on both sides of the company fences. They don't got weird magic boxing powers like Ed. They're just classical boxers. And once again here, when we're doing like facing off against the other side of the aisle, they can be similar, but they don't got to play the same, right? Shermie and Manon will not play the same other than they both have command grabs. Here, they wouldn't necessarily play the same at all. They have very different movesets. But thematically, style-wise, right, they're good fits. It'd give a home for a character like Dudley that hasn't had a home in a good long while. And once again, when it comes to, you know, popular characters, I don't think anyone's ever going to complain about Vanessa being in the game. And hey, speaking of popular characters, we got to put Jury in the game because that's how that works. And Jury, they hinted at Jury actually already in the Fatal Fury Ken ending, right? And they talked about Jury versus Kim Dong-hwan. But here's the thing. Dong sucks as a character. Nobody wants him. So we don't do that. And as much as I despise this character, I'll be the first one to say, okay, if we want to have the thematic connection here, we need the Korea connection. We want Korean Taekwondo characters. We put in Kim Kaphwan. He's the original, right? We put in Kim versus Jury. And now Kim versus Jury, that's Korea, you know, battling. That's Korea versus Korea. Taekwondo versus Taekwondo. Once again, they could not play more differently. Lord knows Jury does not play anything like Kim in any way, shape, or form. But you have that thematic battle on more than one level too, because, you know, Jury's a brat. She's basically a criminal. And Kim's, you know, stick up his rear end, very hoity-toity, very stuffy. He's all about justice, all about reforming criminals. That plot arc, that storyline, like very literally writes itself. That's a great, that's like a pair you put on the box, staring each other down, among other pairs, naturally. So that, I think, would be a very fun way to do it. We get two different, very iconic gameplays, game plans. And hopefully they don't change up Jury too much again, because she's very different game to game. But like, that is another pairing that works out. So, okay, we got all that. How about a battle of the big boys? So for SNK, one of the biggest boys we got has to be Chang. Now, Chang is actually, specifically in the Versus context, I think one of the most well-done characters in fighting game history. Specifically in his incarnation in Capcom vs. SNK 2. He is paired with Choi. Choi, he's not quite a puppet character. It's not a puppet character. It's not the right way to put it. But he's a helper. He's part of his moveset, right? And you do that. And you let Chang be Chang. With the additional Choi moves, make him like just CVS 2. Once again, that's a home run of a character design in my books. And then you take Chang and you stack Choi on his head. And then we're going to be up against the Capcom big boy, right? Well, Zangief, it's too obvious. Hugo, we already did that in SVC Chaos, right? We need the biggest boy. Chang with Choi on top of his head. We need Abigail. And I know Abigail's existence for some of y'all is grotesque. But let me put it this way. Abigail kind of rules. And I think in the context where you can kind of redo the moveset a little bit in a versus game, you can have a lot of fun with Abigail. Like no more V triggers, no more V skill. Like have him summon the tires, have him summon cars for all we care. Like we can get crazy with the moveset, right? You can do a lot of silly things with Abigail. Abigail, I know competitively, people get scared when a big character is remotely decent and playable. Like look at Guilty Gear, look at Potemkin, right? But you don't have to make them top tier. Hey, SNK, they made Hugo awful in FCC Chaos. I'm sure they can make Abigail suck, right? But what's more important than being good or bad in a fighting game is the character is fun or not. And Abigail is so open for so much character design. Like command grab, super armor, weird summons, because that is absolutely in-fitting with the character. Like he can be Juggernaut, sure, but he can also drive a car across the stage. Why not? Like if you saw him drive a monster truck as part of a super, you would buy it. That's literally the character, right? So when it comes to like, we need a giant on each side, Chang versus Abigail, well, Chang and Choi versus Abigail, I think that's a fun way to go about it. And now for the last character of this pairing section, we're pulling a lot from Street Fighter, and I do want to change that up in a little bit here. But, you know, it's kind of hard not to for Capcom, right? Because Street Fighter is where 90% of the characters come from. And for that, I want to pull another new blood. I want to pull Kimberly. As Kimberly is really cool. She's stylish. She's well designed. And that's another character I think SNK in particular can make some very fun use of. And who's on the other side of the aisle from Kimberly? Well, we put her up against Isla. Or Isla. I've never been sure what the right way to pronounce that is. Isla. I'll go with Isla anyways. But Isla is another spray paint rebel character, right? Like Kimberly and Isla are the Jet Set Radio twins, basically. Like they're going to be responsible for the tag at the beginning of the game. It's like graffiti is a crime. Follow your local laws, right? So we have that. Like, and when it comes to the more modern era of King of Fighters, Isla's good representation because we're not going to put in Shunei. The mistake of Shunei is not to be repeated in this game. No matter who makes the game, we're not doing Shunei again. But when we want our weird hands versus powers, then we take Isla, and then we have that representation. So our one graffito tag criminal versus another graffiti criminal, and that's a match made already. Obviously, ninja versus punk rocker, like it's not quite one-to-one, but counterculture character, right? I think they're both great fits for it. They're both heralds of a new generation for both Street Fighter and King of Fighters. And I think that's another great way to do it, right? So like when we have stuffy old Ryu versus old man Terry, Chun versus Mai in the Box, Kimberly versus Isla is a more fresh matchup, both representing newer generations of both, you know, the main franchises of SNK and Capcom. Now, the next part is we do have to get a little weird with it, right? We can't just have all Street Fighter and Fatal Fury and KOF people. Like, should that be the bulk of the roster? More than likely, yes. And we don't necessarily want to go as fantastical as like Marvel versus Capcom would, but we do need to pull from some other franchises. So that said, let's do an easy one. Let's do an easy one from both sides. Yo, you want to sell copies of the game, right? You know how you sell copies of the game? You put Leon friggin' Kennedy in the game. Resident Evil is a bit, like, to be real, is a bigger franchise than Street Fighter is. Like, yes, this should, by all rights, be mostly Street Fighter characters, but if we want our weirder picks, we put in Leon. And yes, we could put in Chris. Chris has been done. Chris has been done. Jill's been done. Like, I guess you could say we could put Barry. I don't know. But, like, let's put in Leon Kennedy. Leon, like, the moveset doesn't got to be too complicated. He'll do a pistol shot. He'll do some fancy drop kicks, maybe a grappler, give him his German suplex. He is famous for the German suplex, after all. But, and summon some zombies, summon some, you know, bioweapons or some such, right? But you put Leon Kennedy in the game, and you move copies, and you can put a fun character in the game. You can develop a pretty interesting moveset around. And once again here, we got to do this for both sides of the fence, right? How about we want Metal Slug representation? And we did have Metal Slug in SVC Chaos and Mars People. We will mention Mars People later in the video here. But Mars People wasn't very Metal Slug. He was great for Mars People, right? But wasn't full of the Metal Slug references. Let's go full on Metal Slug references. Let's put Theo in the game. Theo is, you know, one of the more popular characters of Metal Slug. And You can also have another, gun-based character, but obviously in a completely different way that doesn't have to match Leon at all. And you can make her chock full of Metal Slug references. You can have her ride the tank, summon the camels. The camels are back in big way. If you haven't seen the Fatal Fury Kevin stage, the camels are literally taking over Southtown, and they have machine guns and all that too, right? So like the camels are back. So every Metal Slug reference you can think of, you can have with Fio as a playable character. So she'll shoot a pistol, have a machine gun, like whatever, right? But the idea is we have two popular characters that aren't just KOF, Fatal Fury, Street Fighter, right? And I think Leon Kennedy representing Resident Evil, Fio representing Metal Slug is a great way to go about it. And also, I mentioned Mars People. I think Mars People should return. Mars People is a very unique part of the Metal Slug franchise, and he's a very unique character in SVC Chaos. And with a game that has more budget and you can actually finish, because SVC Chaos, as cool as it is, isn't really a finished game, right? I think you can go all the way with Mars People and just do the rest of the Metal Slug stuff. Metal Slug is an active franchise. It's not like Aggressors of Dark Con. It's not one of SNK's gone in the past franchise. Metal Slug Tactics came out either last year or early this year. I can't remember. But like, there's recent Metal Slug games. So you can do a lot with it. Mars People, returning character. And also, we need a second Darkstalkers rep. So we do Morgan. That's the easy one. We mentioned at the top of the video. How about someone we haven't done yet? We've done Shienko. We've done Felicia. We've done Jetta. Like in these versus crossover games, we've done Dimitri as well, right? We've gone through a good portion of the cast. So let's go through someone who's weird, appropriately Darkstalkers, a waifu so you can sell more copies of the game, and something that just gives new gameplay that you don't got otherwise, right? Let's do QB. QB's sick. QB's fun. QB is one, like, QB and Sasquatch, because he's Canadian. That's my favorite two Darkstalkers characters, right? And I think with QB, you can make a hell of a character. Like at bare minimum, since we're not going to rock Dalsum, you can make her the range character. She has incredible buttons between her like actual like insectoid limbs and summoning the bees, because she does summon the bees. You can just go like huge long range moveset. You can do a flying character. Flying is not as traditional in, Street Fighter KOF. But then again, this isn't going to be a traditional game, so you can get a little weird with it, right? And if you want to get weird, nobody gets weirder than QB. I talk about this at least once a year. I'll bring up a video where I talk about it. QB, one of her supers, is my favorite super of all time. She has a super where she'll get on you, she'll sting you, it'll be cocooned, she'll fall over and die. She's dead. And from the cocoon, a new QB pops out and then jumps out, and you're playing as that QB for the rest of the match. So you're not even you're a new QB, right? That's the level of weird you can go with it. Like, I always thought there was money in QB to be made, but they always just go Morgan, Lilith, Felicia, like on like the safe stuff. Like if you go to Artist Alley and in tournament, you're gonna see Morgan, Lilith, maybe Felicia if you're lucky, and anyone past that, roll the dice, right? So when we're talking weird reps, I think QB would be a really fun rep just for, we need more Darkstalkers reps. We're never going to get the new game. So at least give us something to work with. And of the other characters that have not had their own side appearance in another versus game already, I think she's the best one to showcase the insanity of the franchise, because QB's an actually insane character. And now for outside picks, two final ones, because I want to get really weird. I want to get really weird with it, right? So how do we get really weird with it? So we're going one-to-one here because we do want parity. We don't want more Capcom characters and SNK characters. That's not really how you should do it. But that said here, we need some more reps from other games. How about Samurai Showdown? And Samurai Showdown, like you can say Haomaru, and like you wouldn't be wrong. It's not a bad pick. It's just too easy. It's just too obvious, right? How about someone who's newer? Someone who has made a splash. How about Darlie Dagger? Darlie, people like Darlie. Darlie's a cool effing character. And when she showed up in the new, well, not new anymore, but you know what I mean, right? The most recent Samurai Showdown appearance, like she made some waves. People really liked the design. And if you need a weapon fighter anyways, on top of, we might have gun users or whatever, so it's like whatever, but like she can have a big F-off weapon that's not just Haomaru and his sword, right? So I think she'd be a really cool way to go about it. She's another character where you can get really inventive on the moveset because she's a pirate, she's a shipbuilder. People forget that. More than being a pirate, she's a shipbuilder first. That's why she has a lot of construction tools. That's why her weapon's a saw. You know, it's not just a big two-handed sword, right? And she also can like surf waves and weird elemental stuff. So when you're looking for a Samsho rep, you could go the safe route and do Haomaru. But like if you want to get a little weird with it, and you know, SGC Chaos went really weird. They did Earthquake. And like I love that, but I realized Earthquake, he's a man for the select few, the elite few. The common people do not like Earthquake the way the elite do. So when you're looking for a character to rep Samsho that everyone can enjoy, I think Darlie is good, especially because like once again we need more waifus, and we need for waifu round out, we need, you know, the big muscle mommy waifu. And Darlie can be the big muscle mommy waifu because that's the era we live in. We got to appeal to all, you know, all spectrums on this matter, right? All waifu spectrums must be appealed to. So Darlie can have the muscle waifu spectrum. So there we go. And the final character I want, it's a little weird, but I think is like you got to work with, right? Are we talking about Leon? Leon's already weird enough, but you know, Resident Evil's sort of big deal. What's a bigger deal than Resident Evil? What's Capcom's biggest possible deal? That's Monster Hunter. Now, I'm not saying put Rathalos in the game, because that would be weird. It'd be cool. It'd be weird, but I'm not just saying put in like we had Marvel Infinite, we had Monster Hunter, and she was really cool. Actually, she's one of the coolest characters in Marvel Infinite. But I say get weird with it, because we're already getting weird anyways. Let's put in the cat. Let's put in the palico, the feline, if you will, because that's a unique body type. It's not just a friggin' Street Fighter Art of Fighting character, right? It's a very unique body type, and you can do a lot of the weird Monster Hunter stuff with it. You can showcase a bunch of the weapons. You could summon a bunch of the monsters. You can have the palico cook a big meal in front of you or something like that, like for a buff. You can do a lot of things with that kind of character. Now, the only thing is you'd have to make them a bit bigger, but, well, whatever. You don't need a roll size character, right? You can make them a big cat. That's like the size of like some of the smaller characters in the game. So I don't feel that's too much of an ask. Or you can do the Arxis thing and just put a big hat on their head, and then that's the hitbox, right? So when it comes to something like that, have a Monster Hunter rep, because you need to represent all your franchises, not just Street Fighter. So we have a Resident Evil, we got a Monster Hunter, we got some Darkstalkers. I think that's a really fun way to go about it. And now let's talk to the bosses. Versus games always have a lot of bosses, right? Not just regular bosses. We got big bosses, super bosses, like CVS2. We have Bison and Geese. Those are the sub bosses. Then we had the big bosses in Akuma and Rugal. Then we had the ultra bosses in Shin Akuma and God Rugal, right? And even say SVC Chaos, same deal. We go all the way to like Heaven and Hell, Athena versus Red Armor. And like, so we need bosses. We need a lot of synergy there. When we talk about sub bosses aren't the big boss. I feel sub-bosses should represent two characters that have the most Capcom versus SNK synergy. And I need these characters to fire on all cylinders. I'm saying the sub-bosses, the mini-bosses, if you will, need to be, for Capcom, Dan. And for SNK, Yuri. Why? Because Dan and Yuri are Capcom versus SNK. There is no two characters that make the concept of CVS more than those two characters. More than friggin' Ryu versus Kyo or Terry. More than like anyone versus it is, and has always been, Dan versus Yuri is Capcom versus SNK. If you don't know what I mean, watch this video. We go over it. These two characters are the characters they use to poke fun at the other company. Dan has been always making fun of SNK since day one. He's literally a parody of Robert and Ryo to begin with. Yuri steals every Capcom move and makes fun of them since like almost the start. So we need these two characters. Like, they're not the big boss. They're not meant to be the deadly serious big bosses, right? But these are the characters you use to like poke fun at the other side. Dan should be full on making fun of SNK mode. Yuri should be full on making fun of Capcom mode. So Dan should be making fun of Ryo. He should be making give him new moves. Have him steal Kyo's moveset and then make it worse, right? Have him steal Terry. Give him Gahadoken Burn Knuckle or something like that. Give him all the moves from all the famous SNK characters and make them garbage. But, you know, in a balanced way, right? Because video games. But you know what I'm saying, right? And for Yuri, Yuri's already been doing that since the start. Yuri's been ripping off Akuma and other Capcom characters since the start. Go full on it. Like Shun Yuri Satsu, bring that back. Her making fun of the Shungoku Satsu, right? Like all the Yuri specific moves that make fun of Capcom, bring them back and get bigger with it. She's already made fun of Shin. Sure, you can go crazier with it. Just go all the way nuts with it. Have them be the ultimate weapons of poking fun at the other side of the fence. That's the way I look at it. And I think you can make some really fun moves with that. Now, for the traditional bosses, this is one where I think you play it safe. I think you do Bison and Geese. Bison and Geese make sense as boss. Like, no matter how you swing at it, as a boss, they both make perfect sense. And they're both very popular characters. And ain't nobody gonna complain about their inclusion in the game. Maybe you sass him up a little bit more than usual. Bison has a bit more psycho power than usual. Maybe Geese is Nightmare Geese or just, you know, an otherwise powered up form of Geese. But like, it makes sense. It makes sense. Originally, my idea here, but I think it's getting too far out. You need some grounding on the CVS front, right? Originally, I thought it was gonna be crazy, like Gouken as the boss of Capcom and Ash Crimson as the boss of SNK. But as cool as I think that is, like, I think Geese and Bison, like, that just works. That just makes sense, right? Like, they're already the sub-bosses in CVS 2 as it is. They're both in SVC Chaos as well, like, for good reason. These are characters that represent big bads. And so for the regular boss, big bad Bison, big bad Geese, it works out. But then we need the super boss characters, right? The real bosses. And this is where we start going left field a little bit. For the SNK front, I thought about this for a while, and I want them to go where they're naturally going anyways. If you're a fan of the King of Fighters lore, like I am, you may be aware of one man in particular. And I'm talking about your boy, Orochi. Now, if you don't know who Orochi is, please watch this video. It'll be linked in the video description. Orochi has always been the biggest bad. He's not the big bad in every game, but he's always been the biggest bad. And there are less than subtle about hinting about the fact that when King of Fighters 16 comes around, and it is coming around, that he will be the big bad again. All of his subordinates are now playable characters in King of Fighters 15. It took a while, took a lot of DLC, but we're there. They've more than hinted at it a few times. Orochi is coming back. And what is Orochi? If you're unaware, Orochi is literally Gaia. Like, Orochi is the force and the will of the earth to get rid of humanity. The plague of humanity on the earth. Earth is a little sick of it. And Orochi here to wipe it all away. So Orochi is effectively a god, if you will. And obviously famous, you know, Japanese mythological entity as well. And you can do it like Orochi KOF 97 is like one of the most famous boss fights of all time, right? He's not the cheapest SNK boss of all time. There's been cheaper. But when it comes to like conveying boss-like aura, it's conveying power. Very few have done it better than Orochi. The music, the visuals. Orochi does it all. And when you're looking for a big bad boss, hey, Orochi is it. And then we can tie it in a little bit because, you know, we have Shermie in the game in our beginning we talked about, right? So there is other Orochi aligned characters, so we can work in that way. And then you can have like all Team CAYS, all the Hakeshu in the back, or like whatever. But yeah, Orochi, I think, as the big boss at SNK is a really good way to do it. But then who's the big boss at Capcom? Like, you could say Akuma. That's played out. That's done. Oh, well, then Shin Akuma. Who cares? I'm over it. Let's do what Street Fighter 6 is too scared to do. What was set up in Street Fighter 5. They literally handed it to us on a silver platter, and then Street Fighter 6 showed up. It's like, they forgot, like, what are you talking about? That never happened. Like, we're not talking about it. I want the Capcom Mega Boss to be G. G is another planetary-style god-like creature. What's the plot? I don't know. He was never explained to any satisfactory degree, other than the other like really strong characters like Oro and Rose are like, there is something about this guy that's really wrong and really messed up. Like on the most base level, just like Orochi, G is the manifestation of Earth's power. So once again, a little thematic play here, right? So when you get to the boss as an SNK character, you fight G. Get to the boss Capcom character, you fight Orochi. And either way, Earth is mad at all these Capcom and SNKers fighting each other. So they're sending their champion to wipe them out. So G for Capcom, Orochi for SNK. And when it comes to his powers, like you can make a boss form of G. Like obviously you want to make a competitive playable form as well. But G lends himself very well. Like flashing gold, tons of armor, tons of fire, liquid magma, and all that kind of stuff. You can make a spectacle of this character in a very big and easy way. So when it comes to big bosses, Orochi, he's your boy. Everyone knows Orochi. But when it comes to Street Fighter, like you don't want to just do Akuma. We already have Bison. Gil, I don't know. I just don't love Gil. He's never been like satisfactory, like played off as a big bad. Gee, there's a lot of mystery there. There's a lot of ground you can just invent, And I think you can have a lot of fun with him as a playable character, especially in an SNK game where, like, the rules will be more lax. Let's put it that way. That's the nice way to put it. The rules are more lax in an SNK game, right? So I think you could have a lot of fun with that. And with those bosses, then we hit 28 characters. So that'd be the roster. Once again, I don't think 30 characters is possible in the modern day, and 28 is probably stretching it as it is, and this is all just fantasy booking. I don't know. These are just things I like. I think this would be fun. I think it'd be cool for the game, because I do think this game is inevitable. We've already talked about it in the past. This game's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when. And as for a matter of when, it's probably still some years out, to be honest with you, but it's just fun to talk about. It's fun to speculate. And with that said, this is one of those ideas I sincerely would love to know what you guys think. One, how bad and wrong all my choices are, how evil I am for saying no Kyo in the game. Because we have Dan in the game to make fun of Kyo. He already makes fun of Ryo and Robert. So now he's moving on to the greener pastures, time to make fun of another dummy like Kyo, right? Oh, okay, now I'm starting fights. But yeah, so like, but also besides, my choice, like, what do you guys think? Who would you like to see? Like, I would love this to be like a stealth Darkstalkers game. Like, screw having 2 reps. We have Morrigan, we have QB, we have Sasquatch, we have Victor, we have Anakaris, we have Rico. Like, we have everybody back, right? And it's just Darkstalkers versus SNK. It's like the only way we get another Darkstalkers game. I would love that just as much. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to do a somewhat realistic roster here, right? So, but let me know what you think. What characters do you honestly would love to see in a Capcom versus SNK game, right? For my picks, like I'm trying to pull around from like a lot of the rosters. Obviously, hell of Street Fighter, because Capcom it kind of has to be, but pulling from some of the other franchises as well. I actually debated a Mega Man character, but like, I think Mega Man's dead. Like, it's not like I think Mega Man's more dead than Darkstalkers. Like, to be frank. And yes, Mega Man has had much more recent games. But like the way Capcom treats the franchise, like, like why would you waste a slot on a Mega Man character here, right? So besides that, obviously we have our KOF reps, we have Fatal Fury reps, we have Yuri repping Art of Fighting, and she's like the Kokugen Ryu user, on top of like whatever nonsense she would have. Because I think for Dan and Yuri, if they're to be in the game, these are the characters you need to go full comedy on, like full on sabotage the other side of the fence, right? Make Capcom and SNK look stupid on the other end of things. But I don't know, that's my. So who do you want to see? Who would you like? What do you think about the video as a whole? This is a talking head video because I think kind of has to be, because this is longer and it's not just me rambling. So I figure this is the way to do it. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. We'll see what the future holds. There'll definitely be more like collaborations in the future, regardless. Like Chun-Li is still coming to Fatal Fury. I'm very sure Street Fighter 6 has not had its last guest character. I'll just leave it at that. So there'll be more collaborations across all sorts of fighting games in the future, not just Capcom and SNK. And we'll see what brave future holds for us, right? But till then, that's it for me. That's it for the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games.